they're not supposed to, because they would be turned or pulled away from what they're supposed to be doing.
What an interesting idea.
All the way to the
That
general
is.
authorities, and I imagine there's probably more general authorities than we know that know what's going on,
Oh,
but they know that their assignment is not to focus on that. Because I know that I've had the experience of hearing reports of the studies that they do all over the world.
The
I mean,
general
they've done intensive studies of the Middle East situation and how it's affecting Europe. I heard this, and it's just amazing what they know and understand about what's going on with religion, with society, with birth, with all these things, and how it's affecting Europe.
rates.
And so it's just those things, we're all given what we're supposed to have to do what we need to do. And so some people just, it seems like they're just totally blank to what's going on, but it's because that's not where they need to go.
Well, and you're right. I don't think they necessarily don't understand. But yeah, if we all went in the same direction, if we were all involved in politics, who would be standing back saying it's important to love each other and reminding us about the gospel constantly as they do, when they stand up at general conference. We need that.
Yeah.
Well, we've had experiences over the years taking some, what we thought were really concerning political issues and letting some state presidents know about it. And there are times when they act, and there are other times when they just kind of look at you blankly and say, and my job is to testify, and that's not what I'm going to get involved in, So I think that's an example of you have to stay focused on what your mission is, so, yeah.
So then our job then could be to inspire other people to be doing their missions rather than to be doing our mission.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I've had that experience when I get inspired, then I get excited and I want everyone around me to jump on the bandwagon, and then I don't understand when they don't. And so that was really insightful for me, that it's important that they do their missions, not that they do mine.
I am so impatient and derogatory about, I hope I don't hurt anyone's feelings here, women that scrapbook. I do not understand cutting pieces of paper and doing cutesy things in a book when the country is burning down. I do not understand it. And yet, I come to this point in life, and my family's history is in a cupboard, crammed, and it's a Fibber McGee and Molly cupboard. You open it, type thing. I haven't preserved something beautiful for my family to look at. I mean, I've got some books with them pictures in, and that's a special thing. That's a special gift for a family. It's a special strengthening that a family needs. And I think ours family's okay. We do that in other ways. But so that just made me think, maybe it's as absurd as it may seem, some women might have the mission to be good scrapbookers.
Yeah.
I just don't
No,
understand.
we have kids that
Are
in
you a good
spite of
scrapbooker?
No.
Okay.
we have
No,
kids
my
that one
photos are all in
daughter's a good
boxes.
scrapbooker.
And
Katie
I
does it.
sigh every time I think about it, because I think it is important for those records to be kept for the family, but it's not
That's
my
what
personality to
Facebook
get
is.
it done.
Facebook is electronic scrapbooking.
I don't Facebook
Yeah.
either. I am in
Facebook.
trouble.
Just have you read Elder Groberg's book about his mission?
Yes.
You've probably
They
seen
made
the
it as a
movie.
movie.
No, I've seen the movie, but I haven't read the
The
book.
book's much better than
I
that.
bet it
He's
is.
got 2 books.
Anyway, one story he tells in there that I think relates to this is he talks about when they're ready to go out across the ocean in their little boat from one island to another, and they're sitting there and they're going to pray about it, and he says this prayer, and the man with him admonishes him and say, no, you shouldn't pray that in this way that everything goes good for us, because then what happens, you'll pray that we get the good winds, because what about this poor person over here that doesn't get the wind because we got it? And so it's that principle like this of we can't take away other people's opportunities and their purposes and responsibilities by thinking everybody has to be excited about ours and do it our way and follow our wind, because they may need to be going another direction.
the other thing that impressed me that while you were talking was that if God's inspiring us each to do different things, he probably has a bigger picture than we do. And he's trying to accomplish something much bigger than we can see, because he's inspiring us, and so we get inspired and go our way, but we're not seeing all the other work that needs to be accomplished and the timeline. So we're worried about the early 21st century, and he's thinking about eternity. And not that the 21st century isn't important, but he knows where it fits in eternity, and we see where it fits maybe in our lives. You know, it's harder to have that bigger picture. And so I think that the thing I got out of that too is to try to think more that way of what is my piece in the whole world, and what is this time's piece in my lifetime and before and beyond. And I think there's value in thinking that bigger way.
Internally.
Any other thoughts from that article? Moving on to the other stuff. Okay, so we could go a couple different ways. I only want to spend a little more time on this to save some time for what Kathleen wants to share. So she asked a lot of questions to talk about watching in the news, about issues versus forms, and about relativism, and about something else. Oh, I don't know what, I don't have it right here. She also talked about, and a lot of our reading talked about education. And so we can go talking more about these issues, these forms, about what's going on currently in the news, or about different approaches to education, about the founders' education. And I'm okay with it going either direction. Education's my pet topic, and I think it's all of our pet topic. But at the same time,
right on topic at the beginning. I have a question.
Okay.
Did you read The Education of James Madison?
I'm at least halfway through, and I read the part that she said the beginning is especially good. And
Yeah, she said
I agree with that.
half, really.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
have you read it?
No.
So share with us because I think learning about the education of specific founders is such really something we should
When did
do.
it begin? Excuse me. I didn't
No,
mean to-
that's great.
When did his formal academic education begin?
Let
Do
me
you
go
know that?
get that book, and so that I have it ready as a reference. I would be happy
I
to
know
talk about
she's
this
a Go
book.
Deeper girl, and so that was on the
Yeah.
bottom of the list, and
Yeah,
I knew she would.
yeah. We've got to get our time organized. We just don't have time.
Well, we're just recovering from,
Just recovering from the legislature.
Yeah?
well, not just that, from
Oh, I thought he was
Who is
talking to
this
me.
by?
This is Mary Elaine Swanson.
Okay.
She calls it The Education of James Madison, a Model for Today. And you can easily see as you read her bias about what's going on with education and where it should be. So
And is it where we are, or does she have a different idea of where education should be going?
I agree with her a lot
Okay.
about where education should be. And a lot of the concepts in this book are in the lecture. Many of her quotes, I think she got directly from some. I read along and find.
And that's in the article.
Okay, she good.
Yeah.
Get it.
So he started out, and she said a lot of the children in those times were taught at home at first, and then moved on. So he had, I don't remember exactly his ages, but he spent some time at home and with the scriptures and other things, and then did a couple different teachers that he boarded with and learned from them, and then.
Just individually. So
No,
he
not
learned
just
teachers.
Let's see. They had a tutor come to
Board
their
with them,
home
yeah.
Okay.
for a period, and then he boarded with other students at one or two other
Oh, okay.
schools.
Boarding schools.
And they talked a lot about these Scottish ministers that were immigrating over here, and the influence that they had. And so many of his teachers were Scottish ministers over here. And then a big thing that she talks about a lot is the influence of John, what's his first name? Dr. Witherspoon, who was the president of the College of New Jersey, which became Princeton, which is where he attended college. And he,
And Audrey talks about him, doesn't she, in
I think so.
that second
Yeah.
lecture? I think I remember that name.
I missed the name.
Witherspoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then he later served in the government founding along with Madison. But she makes a lot of connections between him and how he may have gotten those ideas back from Dr. Witherspoon. And so talks a lot about the influence Dr. Witherspoon had and the influence that John Locke and who else had on Witherspoon. And he talked about Calvinism. Dr. Witherspoon was a Calvinist versus some. And then she does some comparing and contrasting of while Madison and Jefferson had similar foundations and similar looking educations, they ended up with some divergent ideas, mainly about God. And so she brought in a little bit of Jefferson's, when she brings up another person that came into Madison's life, she'll give a little back how they were educated. So she talks a little bit about Franklin and others of his peers from the College of New Jersey and that time period. I don't know exactly what else to say. It's very, very interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And most of the quotes, I think most of the ones that I marked down and specifically loved were right there in Audrey's lecture.
Well, and here's one that I bet is in this book. The unscrupulously ambitious would easily triumph over ignorance. How important is education? If we're not educated, that it's something that rings true to me all the time. Something that I hear a lot is the low information voter. The low information voter. And I think that just says, doesn't take time to be educated. It's so important. But I know she quoted Mary Lane Swanson. I don't know if it was that book or another book. I don't know how many she's written, but love that.
She talks, I'm trying to think of some of the ideas that she talks about. She talks about how hard he studied and how much, when he was at the College of New Jersey, it was a 4-year program that he did in 2 years, even though his health was bad, because it kind of sounds like he couldn't stop him. And so he studied, and then he wasn't quite sure when he was done there what he was going to go in, and so he went home for a while and he tutored his younger siblings, and he was always studious and kept studying and studying. He got really interested in learning about governmental forms and studying past ones, and so then when he was in Congress and working in Virginia and for the nation, he brought a lot of his notes, and he came prepared, ready to just share whatever he did. And then when he was in the Constitutional Convention, he would share just little tidbits. He says that from Dr. Witherspoon he learned to only say something when you have something to say, and when you're finished saying it, stop talking. And so he would give little short speeches, but they were really impactful. And he took really good notes on everything that everyone said, and so just talks a lot about just the impact that he made because of his education and his preparation. That's what enabled him to do all that he did and to have a really big influence on what came out of it. In fact, I just read the chapter that's called The Father of the Constitution that says these are the things that he put forth that made it into the Constitution, and these are the things that he suggested that didn't make it. But some of the major things, he's the father of the Constitution, so obviously he was the one with the biggest influence, but it was from that studying that he had done that he figured out what his principles that he believed in were, and then made a case for them.
We didn't get a chance to read as we wanted to here, so steer me back to the topic if this is too far away. But I read an article in the newspaper this morning. Somebody said,
Can we have her? She'd probably snuggle.
oh,
Daddy.
Daddy's not ready to give in, so.
It's not time yet.
She normally gets a little more.
Love time.
Yeah, a little more care. Come snuggle, mommy.
Sure, that's important. In